If your brand were a person, would people trust it? Hey, my name is Cynthia Kita, and I'm your brand strategist, designer, and educator here at the Design Pharmacy. And I'm excited to talk about today's topic. I'm going to show you 3 ways that you can tell if your brand is actually trustworthy or if it's just visible. Now, when we started this video, I asked the question, if your brand were a person, would people trust it? Now, okay, it may be a little weird to think of your brand as a person, but here at the Design Pharmacy, that's exactly what we believe. I always say your brand is an invisible representative of your company. People may not see it as a human being or as a physical being, but it whispers in their ear. It tells them what you believe. It tells them how to react to you in the same way that you would commune or get to know a human being, you do the same with brands all over the world. When you wake up in the morning, you pick up your phone, I'm sure, and you scroll. That's an iPhone or an Android. Sorry for you. But you pick up that phone is a brand. It essentially is an extension, sorry, of what you believe or what you support. When you get on your preferred social media platform, that's also a brand. Threads is more for quick form. It's kind of like Twitter, right? And Twitter, or I guess it's called X now. X is a platform of its own. You can get away with a lot of things on there, right? And so all the brands that we interact with, from the type of coffee we drink in the morning, whether we drink coffee at all, whether we decide to exercise, which trainer we decide to use for that exercise session, whether it's a treadmill, whether it's a Peloton bike, whether for me, I do T25 still, whatever it is that you do, that is a part of a brand. And all of those brands encompass the daily decisions that you make in your life and the impact that it has on whatever goals that you have. So, your brand is a person, it influences, it affects people. And I believe that you should treat it as such. Now, number one, in order to tell whether your brand is trustworthy or just taking up space, you definitely want to know who your brand is, and that falls under brand core. Now, people cannot trust a brand that feels unsure of itself. I mean, again, we're talking about a person, an invisible person, but we can liken it to a real physical person that you see walking down the road. If you were ever to go to a networking event and meet somebody, if they shied away or looked down when they were speaking to you, or did anything possible to not connect with you as you're sitting in front of them, I'm sure you probably wouldn't want to meet up with them if they asked later on, right? Because a connection wasn't made. They weren't sure of themselves. They lacked confidence. And so there was a distance that was created between the two of you, even if you may not have even known each other at all or at any point. And so knowing who you are as a brand is so, so, so important. You need to know who you serve, what the problem it is that you're attending to, and why your business even exists in the first place. I think that's the first point of where you should start. Before you figure out who you're serving and how you want to help them, you need to establish your purpose. I call brand purpose. Why do you even exist in the first place? We have to start with the why before we can get to the who's and the what's. All right. Now, if you're not able to articulate any of these things, it'll be hard for you to show up confidently in any space, whether it's a physical space or a virtual space. And so make sure you know who your brand is. Your brand needs to start off with confidence. And that's not just for your audience, but it's also for you when you're showing up in front of other people, because confidence is going to attract people. Any sense or the slightest sense of confusion is going to repel people. And it's a lot harder to fix that than it is to attract people to your brand. Number two, Does your brand show up the same way everywhere, whether it is in person, whether it's visually on your website, whether it's on social media or any other platform that you use? That's a question that you should be asking yourself because that is a matter of brand persona and your visual identity. Now, every brand has a personality in the same way that every human being has a personality. I'm sure you know someone who is calm, cool, and collected wherever they go. And I'm sure you've met someone who has high energy. They're very excited, they're very happy. They're the type of person that you probably want to be around, whereas others may say, hey, that's a little too much for me, right? But whatever it is, you expect that person to be consistent with who they are. And that's where showing up the same everywhere comes in. Now, if one day I decide I am pro animal and the next day I decide I'm not, someone is going to look at my business and say, hmm, Monday they were pro saving animals, Tuesday, not so much. What is this? What does this mean? There's a lack of consistency there. And again, confusion is going to repel people. So you have to make sure that wherever your brand is experienced, that the experience is the same and that your brand shows itself in the same way. If your brand speaks a certain language on its website, it should speak a similar language on its social media. If it speaks one way in like in their YouTube videos, the same should be so for maybe how they speak on a Twitter X or a Threads platform just typed out, right? And so you want to make sure that your brand is consistent in every way because trust is built through consistency. With the example that I gave earlier, it would make you question, hey, are these people legitimate? Are they scamming us? Are they just trying to get our money and not using the money in the way that they tell us they will? Because those are questions that people will naturally ask, and you don't want them to ever ask that type of a question about your business. You don't. So make sure that your brand is consistent wherever it's experienced. Number three, does your brand deliver on its promises? That ties into your branded experiences. Nobody likes someone who breaks their promises or doesn't keep their word. If you tell me that you're going to be somewhere or be at my event at a certain time on a certain day, I hope to see you there. I trust that you will be there. And your audience is also putting their trust in you to deliver exactly what you say you will deliver because trust is broken in failed promises. And think of a friendship or a relationship that you may have had. Let's say they promised to do one thing and they did the opposite or just didn't do it at all. Imagine the disappointment that you would feel, or maybe you've already felt that disappointment. You don't want your audience to feel that way about you because they're going to then make up their minds that you do not keep your word. And I don't think there's anything worse than that, not keeping your word. Trust is huge. The moment you diminish or lose trust, it is so hard to get it back. I'm sure we've all experienced this in one way or another. And the same applies with branding. All of your content may look good, it may be beautiful, it may be speaking to hearts, but if someone chooses to put their heart in your hands and you fail them and you don't even try to remedy the situation, that's a huge loss. That's a huge loss. And on top of that, news spreads like wildfire. I'm sure we all know that. And so it's not just going to be about what you did to them personally. It's also going to be about what they tell other people who may have had interest in working with you or patronizing your business. So remember that every interaction you have is a part of a total brand experience. And those moments determine whether your people come back to you, whether they refer you, or if they just disappear, whether it's quietly or loudly, especially with the type of social media platforms we have today. So ensure that you pay attention to your branded experiences because your brand reputation is built on you following through on your word. If your brand feels off and you can't really explain why, it's probably because one of your vitals needs attention. And that's why I created the Brand Vitals Assessment, because it helps you uncover what's really going on with your brand, where it's strong and where it's actually weak. It also helps you understand which areas are affecting that health, things that are affecting your trust, your clarity, and your consistency. And overall, it'll give you a clear picture of what to focus on instead of pouring your energy into things that don't really move the needle. So, I want you to go ahead and take my Brand Vitals assessment for free by visiting mybrandvitals.com. Again, it's for free. Go ahead and take it and finally see what your brand is communicating when you're not in the room. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye. You're doing all the things: posting content, updating your website, running ads, tweaking your offers, but still wondering, why isn't this working? Truth is, you might be focusing on areas that look productive but aren't actually moving the needle. The Brand Vitals assessment helps you stop guessing and start targeting. It's like a wellness checkup, but for your brand. You'll gain crystal clear insight into the 9 essential areas every brand needs to thrive. No fluff, no filler, just facts about where your brand stands and what needs your focus. Because clarity is the first step to real momentum. And when you know where to focus, you start to see progress, not just activity. Get out of busy work. Get into brand building that actually works. Take the Brand Vitals assessment now.